Welcome to Nash Fit Training Podcast. I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, PhD in philosophy, author, international speaker, fitness expert and nutritionist, and former bodybuilding champion. In this podcast, I will provide you with proven and effective strategies that will help you lose fat, build muscle, and completely change your body composition. The insights and advice I will share are grounded in scientific research and theoretical knowledge, but more importantly, they are drawn from my own experience as well as the experiences of my clients over the past 4 decades. So let us dive into today's topic. Hello everyone. In this episode, I want to dive into the debate between high intensity and high volume workouts, addressing the age-old question, which is better for hypertrophy? Before we tackle that, I want to emphasize that I will be taking into account the undeniable scientific research on this topic, and particularly studies that use electromyography to reveal how muscle fibers respond to different intensity levels. However, I will also be grounding our discussion in the real-world experience drawn from over 70 years of bodybuilding history. This extensive period has clearly demonstrated which types of training have been most successful for the majority of athletes. Unfortunately, many so-called experts have, for various reasons, disregarded the wealth of experience from the greatest athletes of the past 7 decades, often dismissing their training methods as unscientific. But does it really matter when their results speak for themselves? Was their training truly unscientific? Or did these legendary bodybuilders, whether through intuition or sheer experience, develop training system that science is only now confirming to be optimal for hypertrophy? I would like to share with you my personal experience that left me quite puzzled at the time. Early in my bodybuilding journey, I was deeply influenced by Mike Mentzer's heavy-duty training philosophy. I followed his routine that emphasized heavy weights, training every other day with only a few sets at no more than 6 reps per set. And while I was getting much stronger, I didn't look really like a typical bodybuilder. I was bulky, big, but also carried a lot of fat. Then one day somebody brought in a bodybuilding magazine featuring photos of Serge Nubret. Serge Nubret was a legendary bodybuilder in the 70s and 80s, known for his amazing proportions, definitions, and simply look, which was absolutely overwhelming. We were all blown away by his incredible physique, but what fascinated us even more was his training method, which is complete opposite of Mike Mentzer's training method. Nubret did up to 40 sets per muscle group and trained each muscle group twice a week. And his sets were not overly intense, with reps consistently around 12. To add to the excitement, the article included his phone number and he lived in Paris. So I decided to give him a call. To my surprise, I spoke with him directly, and soon after I was on my way to Paris. I couldn't wait to meet legendary Serge Nubret. A month later, I found myself at Serge Nubret International Fitness Center, watching him train in person. Now, let us have a few words about high-intensity training. To better understand this type of training, we have to explore its historical development and key principles. High-intensity training was first introduced by Arthur Jones in the 70s as a marketing tool to promote his new line of gym equipment. Jones proposed that bodybuilders should train each muscle once or ideally twice a week with only one high-intensity set per exercise, consisting of 12 reps. Initially, he recommended training 3 times a week, but later revised it to just 2 days per week, suggesting that that would be even more effective. Another big proponent of high-intensity training was Mike Mentzer, a major figure in high-intensity philosophy. He took the concept further by creating his famous heavy-duty training system. Mentzer reduced the training frequency even more, advocating that each muscle should be trained no more than once every 7 to 10 days, and eventually extending the rest period to up to 2 weeks between sessions for each muscle group. His system focused on performing just one high-intensity set per exercise, and in some cases only one exercise per muscle group. He emphasized using full-range sets of 6 to 9 reps, incorporating advanced techniques like forced and negative reps, as well as rest pause, pushing every set beyond positive failure. The third major advocate of high-intensity training was 6-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates. Yates promoted performing a single all-out set per exercise. He trained each muscle once a week, limiting his workouts to no more than 4 sessions per week. His approach involved 6 to 8 reps for upper body muscles and 10 to 15 reps for legs, with 8 to 10 sets for larger muscles and 4 to 6 sets for smaller ones. He also included 1 or 2 warm-up sets, progressively increasing the weight, but only performed one, as he called, true working set per exercise. Now let us look at high volume training. High volume training is often linked to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the 7 times Mr. Olympia champion. In the 70s, Arnold became famous for his intense high volume routines, which involved 25 to 30 or sometimes even more sets for larger muscle groups. He trained daily, sometimes even twice a day, and targeted each muscle group twice a week during the off-season, increasing to 3 times a week during competition preparations. His regimen included 5 to 6 exercises for larger muscle groups and 4 to 5 exercises for smaller ones, with training sessions lasting 2 hours or longer. Another strong proponent of high-volume training was Serge Nubret, who would perform up to 40 sets per muscle group. He trained 6 days a week, working each muscle group twice a week and up to 3 times a week before competition. Unlike Arnold, Nubret often focused on fewer exercises per muscle group, and he was also known to do 40 sets of a single exercise, like, for example, bench press, which I witnessed firsthand. As you can see, there have always been, and still are, and still will be, advocates of both high-intensity and high-volume training systems who have achieved impressive levels of muscle development and definition. Some bodybuilders follow a middle ground, training with less intensity than Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates, but using more sets, though not to the extreme levels of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Serge Nubret, and they still achieve significant success on the professional stage. In reality, most professional bodybuilders haven't followed the extreme intensity of Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates, nor the very high volume pushed by Schwarzenegger or Nubret. However, we cannot ignore the wealth of practical experience from the majority of successful bodybuilders who have consistently built muscle size and definition. Overlooking the collective knowledge gained since bodybuilding became a global phenomenon in the 70s would be a mistake. The sport has never been treated like a massive scientific experiment, but instead of learning from the real-world experiences of thousands of athletes who work hard to achieve remarkable results, attention has often shifted to new training systems that promised quick, almost magical transformation. Personally, I have always been skeptical of extreme and extravagant systems like Mike Mentzer's Heavy Duty, which claim that everything previous champions did was wrong, whether it is overtraining, choosing the wrong exercises, or using poor biomechanics. Are we really supposed to believe that legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sergio Oliva, Lee Haney, Serge Nubret, Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, and many others were all training incorrectly? If that was true, how did they manage to develop such great bodies? Now, the typical explanation, as you probably know, for their success is often attributed to steroid use. However, these following higher intensity training programs were also using steroids. Scientific research shows that muscles need to be trained every 48 to 72 hours to continue growing. Otherwise, they begin to atrophy. If you are only training each muscle once every 2 to 4 weeks, as Mentzer recommended, you would either have to be on steroids or possess extraordinary genetics to see results. Yes, these elite athletes did use steroids, but since that was a common thing about all of them, we can set it aside. If everyone was using them, why did most of those athletes choose a particular training style? Clearly, it is because that method produced the best results. Now I'm going to say a few words about the most used training system. The training system that most elite bodybuilders have used and continue to use is a high volume, medium to high intensity approach. This typically involves 20 to 25 sets for larger muscle groups and 10 to 12 sets for smaller ones, with each muscle group being trained every 5 to 7 days. Most professionals don't follow the extreme high-intensity training of Mike Metzer, nor do they engage in the extremely high-volume routines of Schwarzenegger and Nubret. In my own experience, I found that this balanced approach of 20 to 25 sets for larger muscle groups, training each muscle group only every 5 to 7 days, yielded the best results. I experimented with Mentzer's heavy-duty training system for 2 years, but didn't achieve the results I had hoped for. I also tried Nubret's extremely high-volume method, but quickly realized that it wasn't sustainable for me either. While science has often disregarded the wealth of knowledge gathered by professional bodybuilders over the decades, we will not make the same mistake. Ignoring scientific research would be unwise, and curiosity demands an open mind. So let us delve into what science says about training intensity and volume. Over the past decade, numerous studies and meta-analyses have examined the connection between reps and intensity. For instance, if 1 rep max represents 100% intensity, performing 10 to 12 reps equals about 70% of intensity. It is generally accepted that 6 to 12 rep range is optimal for muscle hypertrophy, while fewer than 6 reps typically boost strength without necessarily increasing muscle size. However, if you stick to 6 reps per set, you will need to do more sets, whereas performing 12 reps per set allow for fewer sets overall. Interestingly, neither method is incoherently better. Both of them lead to similar results. The critical factor, it turns out, is volume. I've seen bodybuilders focus on 6 reps with heavier weights and others opt for 12 reps with lighter weights, yet both groups experience comparable muscle growth. Even those who performed more than 12 reps, sometimes up to 20, achieved significant hypertrophy. So, how can both low and high reps produce the same results? To get the answer to this question, we need to look at the myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic growth. Research has shown that muscle growth occurs in 2 main forms: myofibrillar growth and sarcoplasmic growth. Myofibrils are the protein filaments responsible for muscle contractions, and muscles contain hundreds of thousands of these. Muscles also have sarcoplasm, which primarily stores glycogen. Different types of training stimulate either myofibrillar growth or increase sarcoplasmic volume. Low rep training with around 6 reps and heavier weights promotes myofibrillar growth, while higher rep training in the range of 12 to 15 reps increases sarcoplasmic growth by boosting glycogen storage. For well-rounded development, it is beneficial to use a variety of rep ranges, anywhere from 6 to 15, within each exercise, pyramiding the weights from lighter to heavier, just as Schwarzenegger did. This method ensures that both types of growth are activated. Additionally, studies have found that the optimal weekly set range for muscle groups is between 10 to 20 sets. While 10 sets can lead to substantial muscle growth, 20 sets provide slightly more, but the increase isn't that dramatic. Completing 10 well-executed sets will stimulate around 90% of your muscle growth potential, while doing 20 sets will get you to 100% with only 10% increase in stimulation by doubling the number of sets. Whether you choose to do 10 or 20 sets, you are on the right track. You can spread these sets across 2 sessions in 1 week, performing 5 to 10 sets per workout, or complete all 10 to 20 sets in a single session in 1 week. Both methods are effective. Ultimately, the best results come from aiming for 10 to 20 sets per muscle group each week, depending on your preferences and schedule. Now, let us have a few words about key principles of high-intensity training, which are: Number 1, training to failure. Number 2, low volume of sets. And number 3, low training frequency. Let us look at training to failure first. Many people push themselves to reach total failure in every set, sometimes going beyond it with forced and negative reps. However, the research has shown that training to total muscle failure is not necessary. In fact, stopping 1 to 3 reps short of failure still delivers the same results as going all the way to failure. This has been proven not only by scientific studies, but also by numerous experienced bodybuilders who have successfully built muscles without training to failure. So pushing to failure doesn't necessarily lead to more growth. Regarding low volume of sets advocating by high-intensity training philosophy, research shows that performing 3 sets near failure or to failure per exercise stimulates more growth than just 1. So you're better off doing 3 sets per exercise than just 1. Regarding low frequency, we have to say that Mike Mentzer initially recommended performing 1 workout every 4 to 5 days, but later suggested that training only once every 10 to 14 days might be even more effective. However, research and the long-standing practices of professional bodybuilders have consistently shown that 4 to 6 workouts per week are more beneficial than 1-3 sessions or less. In conclusion, both scientific research and the experience of top bodybuilders over the past 70 years have confirmed that volume training, comprising of 20 to 25 sets for larger muscle groups and 10 to 12 sets for smaller ones, is superior to high-intensity, low-volume training. Additionally, performing sets 2 to 3 reps short of failure delivers the same results as pushing to total failure while significantly reducing the risk of injury. Most studies show that rep range between 6 to 12 are optimal for hypertrophy as they stimulate both myofibril and sarcoplasmic growth. Training 4 to 6 times per week has also proven to promote more muscle growth than less frequent training sessions recommended by proponents of high-intensity training. Now, I want to say that while some individuals may find success with high-intensity and low-volume training or extremely high-volume and low-intensity workouts, these instances are more an exception than the rule. Guidelines presented here are relevant for the majority of bodybuilders, but I recognize that some of you may achieve excellent results using high-intensity or high-volume approaches. Now I would like to say a few words regarding natural bodybuilders. For natural bodybuilders, those who do not use steroids or performance-enhancing hormones, optimal training system is more difficult to define. Steroids enable elite bodybuilders to recover more quickly and train more frequently, sometimes even twice a day. If you're training naturally, it is essential to be mindful of your recovery. There isn't a universal formula for natural bodybuilders due to the individual differences in factors such as testosterone levels, growth hormone production, recovery capacity, muscle fiber composition, and tendon insertion points. The best advice for natural bodybuilders is to seek out a knowledgeable and experienced personal trainer if possible and adhere to their guidance. Alternatively, invest time in educating yourself, practice patience, and always listen to your body. If you're feeling fatigued, take a break. If your muscles are sore from a prior workout, allow them time to recuperate. Train only when you're fully recovered. If you experience joint pain, reduce the weight and concentrate on maintaining proper form. Avoid pushing to total failure when training alone. Start with 3 sessions per week and gradually increase to 4. Only highly advanced natural bodybuilders should consider training 5 times a week. Even without steroids, you can still develop an impressive physique. It may simply require more time, more effort, and more knowledge, which will ultimately make your achievements even more rewarding. So let us recap now. While some still advocate for high-intensity training characterized by training to failure or beyond, using heavy weights, low reps, and infrequent workouts, and others promote high-volume training with more sets, lighter weights, and high reps, the majority of top bodybuilders follow a different approach. Most advanced bodybuilders train with weights that allow for 8 to 12 reps. doing 15 to 25 sets per large muscle groups each week, not always pushing to failure, and training 4 to 6 times per week. This training style typically applies to bodybuilders who use steroids or other performance-enhancing hormones. For natural bodybuilders, recovery is a bigger concern because they don't have the enhanced recovery ability that steroids provide. Natural bodybuilders should avoid following the training advice of enhanced bodybuilders, as their bodies won't be able to handle the same intensity or volume. Instead, natural athletes should limit training to no more than 4 times per week, aim for 10 to 15 sets per large muscle groups, avoid training beyond failure, and also only train when fully recovered. For more in-depth advice on training systems, techniques, nutrition, and fat loss, visit my website nashfittraining.com. There you will find my ebooks along with a range of services including personal training, online coaching, customized training and nutrition programs, and telephone consultations. And before we sign off, I would like to thank you for your support and thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in these topics. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you would like to see covered in future episodes. And if you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. Take care of yourself and see you next week for a new episode.